Hello everyone, I'm Linda Hayes, and if you haven't seen any of my videos before, I'm an accountant and a real estate investor with real estate in Canada and in Belize. The motto of my company, L by L Real Estate, is look before you leap, and this refers not only to the numbers, but also to question any assumptions you have. So this presentation is going to discuss the differences between building and buying a resale property. My focus on real estate investing since 2006 has been on new construction. And one reason I like new builds is that I like unique products such as tiny homes, and those are hard to find as resales. In Belize, I really like Mahogany Bay Village because it's a gated community, has a ton of amenities, and for tiny homes, of course, building is the only option. So in this presentation, I want to highlight the fact that although you can build, depending on what you want, there are resale options that can be very good as well. So we're going to look at a detailed price comparison and talk about some pros and cons of the different options. So when you are comparing the options, you need to do an apples to apples comparison. And what I'm going to do is highlight some adjustments you should make to account for differences in price, but there are going to be some ones I likely missed. Because when you go to look at a property, you'll also see things such as the quality of furniture, if it's included, what type of outdoor space it has, and all of those things would be factored into a comparison you do if you were considering different properties. And in this presentation, I'm also not going to try to assess value, so I'm not talking about value at all. I'm just looking at what the cost is to build currently in July of 2021, and then comparing that to the properties that are currently listed, of course, which may be negotiable if you were actually trying to buy one. So this is just a point in time analysis. And you shouldn't assume the best decision in one place is the same as another and that it doesn't change over time. So for example, when I built my first brand new house in 2006, at that time building was cheaper than buying, and it was because of the fact that the market had been heating up quite a bit and there was a lot of multiple offers on property, and so of course the building prices hadn't currently updated, but they were soon to do that as well. Then last year in 2020, building actually was more expensive, and other times there's no difference in price. With the way inflation is right now on things like wood, you might find building is more expensive. So it just depends on where you are and what time point you're in. In Belize, another factor is financing. You could find a resale that's more expensive just because it has very attractive financing terms. And you may be okay with that if your other option is to pay cash and you actually need financing or desire it. So although I'm using Mahogany Bay Village as an example, the same analysis can be done in any area. The challenge with Belize is because there is no MLS system, it's impossible to know everything that's available. Now, as long as you find a really good real estate agent, they should be able to give you some good examples. But what you would want to do before you find an agent is get referrals, because depending on what you're looking for, a specific agent may be more suitable. And since there's no licensing, it can be hard to find someone you can trust. And in terms of property listings I'm going to show right now, some of them I found just by driving around the area because, again, it was really hard to find anything by looking at one specific website. So pretty soon we're going to look at Excel to compare building versus buying. And the first thing I just wanted to mention is when you're building, there is a cost per square footage the builders charge. And sometimes because of that, you might end up finding that building two separate buildings on a lot is going to be the same price as building a bigger one. So for example, in the case of my tiny homes, I have two one-bedroom models plus a loft, so that's 2 bedrooms and a loft in total. And if I built a 2-bedroom with a loft of the same square footage, then the price would pretty much be the same. So that's a little different than what we find in other places where if you have the square footage in one place, it's a bit cheaper. Here, that isn't the case. So here we can look at 3 different quotes we have for some models in Mahogany Bay. So the first one is the Jib, which is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, plus the lofts as well. So you can see here in the pricing that it is 1,206 square feet on the main floor, and the price of that with the builder Hilton Curio is $145,000 roughly. And if you do the math, you'll see that along with the other quotes we're going to look at here are basically $120 per square foot for the base build. This particular one also has a loft, which is at $50 a square foot if you do the math. And then you can see the additions, the screen porch, covered porch. They have the seawall in there at $15,000 and the pool as well. And then they have a whole bunch of other things down here, the air conditioners, landscaping, the plans, and the project management fee, and resurveying the lot. And you can see appliances are not quoted on this one, and the total price here is shown as about $270 with these things, other than some of the things that, like the appliances, also we would need, if we're comparing to listings, we'd need to include things like furniture, decor, and those types of items. When you look at the next model, it's the wheelhouse. This is a 3-bedroom house, and when you go down the list, you'll see the full price is $303 for that one. And then the 4-bedroom option is a customized jib model. You can kind of see the customization has an extra plan price there. It's a little more money, $37.50 for this plan compared to the other one at the base one at $17.50. So that's probably the reason for that. And then one thing you'll notice about the wheelhouse here is it doesn't say anything about plans, so that's just missed in there. So when we do our adjustments, we have to be able to compare these plans. So for example, this first one has a pool. This next one here, if you look at the wheelhouse, you can see there's a pool in a different section there. And then this last one though, the 4-bedroom, there is no pool in this one. So we're gonna just back out the price of the pools in these so we can compare each of these to figure out a cost per square footage overall, so that we can then compare to the houses that are listed. So as I said, we're going to do a little comparison to find out what the total price would be if we wanted to furnish one of these units. And these, of course, are estimates. And how I got the estimates together, for example, if we look at the jib, the first model, I took the price off that the quotes that we just saw of about $270,000. I added in $5,000 for appliances, and then for furniture, decor, all the stuff you put in the kitchen, all that. What I did for that is I have about $19,000 in the budget here, and I took the numbers from ECI's furniture package that they offer on one of their 2-bedroom models in the New Best Western building, and that price was $19,800. So I kind of just used that just to give myself an idea of what to include for, say, a 2-bedroom, also a 3-bedroom, and then a 4-bedroom, because they have pricing for all of that. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we backed out the pool for the comparison purposes in the 2 units that have a pool in the quote. So once I added up all the extras and then I add the lot, which in Mahogany Bay is $150, for the jib, all in, we'd be looking at a price of $418,280 when we back out the pool. So that gives us a total price of $249.57 a square foot with everything in it. The wheelhouse, that one is at $466 in total, $282 a square foot. Then the 4-bedroom option, total price without the pool, $572, $269 there. So you can see I've put a summary up here too, just to show the square footage and the price per square foot. And normally what you'll see is that when you build bigger, 3-bedroom, and then you go up to a 4-bedroom, the cost per square footage is going down. And that's because things like air conditioning and appliances, those don't necessarily go up proportionately compared to square foot, although the base price, of course, does, because it's $120 a square foot. The reason the 2-bedroom looks a little bit cheaper there is because the loft price, of course, was a lot cheaper at $50 a square foot compared to the main build. All right, so now we're going to go through the different listings that I found when I did a search in early July. So everything kind of was finalized by July 10th in these 9 different listings that I have in my summary chart here. And when we look at the different listings, the first thing I wanted to remind people of is there's no MLS in Belize, so it makes it very hard to find properties. And you're going to see here that out of these 9 listings, I have 3 different agents listed, and they're actually with 3 separate RE/MAX brokerages. And these are the current listings that are in Mahogany Bay Village when I did the search. Of course, this is subject to change at any point. So the first agent is David Kafka, and he works with Clint in the sales office here at the Hilton, and I know him really well because we were in the conference in June together with the Real Estate Guys radio show, so got to know him very well over many different events. And then there's another agent, Jason Turley, and how I became aware of him is I actually drove by one of his listings on Street 1, and it was this one, number 7, and I found his sign, so I looked him up, and actually I've got to meet him since because he's actually on the island right now, and I found his listings here, so you could see one here by the Turley team, that I found. And then the last one I have on here is Dustin Rennie. He had a family cottage and 2 garden cottages listed. That's with the Hilton, and that one I found by going to his website, because for some reason I wasn't seeing that in the point2homes.com site, although the land in Mahogany Bay is listed on there. So that is one website you could start with when you're looking up different properties in Belize, point2homes.com. The hard thing about it is there's no search by neighborhood specifically. I could search for San Pedro, but even when I pick house, it shows me other things like lots of condos, and so trying to narrow down what was in Mahogany Bay was a little bit tricky. And some of the properties, as I said, I didn't even find through that process. I found them other ways, like going into different listing agents' websites. So that is a little bit tricky. What I did again is I wanted to compare apples to apples with the new builds, so I had to back out any pools like I did in the new builds. So when I talked with Clint and David, their pools with the Hilton cost $50,000. So what I did in listing number 4, which is one of David's listings, I took out the cost of $50,000 just to give a comparable price of what the build price without a pool is. And then I did the same thing for number 2, the 3-bedroom concrete house that Jason Turley has, just figuring the pool cost would have been around the same. So that gives us a whole bunch of different price per square footages that we can look to when we're going to be comparing to the new builds. The other thing just to comment on is furniture. All of the different listings other than new builds typically are furnished. And when we look at the Hilton new builds that I have in this list, they had a listing for a 4-bedroom house you could build. And then they had another new build as well, which is the number 6 3-bedroom house that you could build as well. And both of those prices do include their furniture package already. So I didn't have to do any adjustments for furniture here. It was simply just taking out the pools for the ones that had the pools. And so other than that, we're going to be now going in to look at how we can compare new builds with these. And one last note before we do that is, when you look at furniture or outdoor space or anything else, the quality might be different in different properties. So you would need to know that by going to look at the property. As an example, for Hilton furniture, it's going to be likely very, very high quality. And when I did my budget for the new builds, I was using the Best Western furniture packages for ECI. So obviously this is going to be a little higher quality, but since we don't really know the details of any particular property, you'd have to go, if you were buying something, and just compare that along with where the particular house was situated. Do you like what the view is? Which way the house is facing, all those kind of things. Where is it located in Mahogany Bay? All those things you need to factor in. But I'm not trying to look at one of these being better for you to buy or not. All I'm trying to show is a cost comparison of different listing prices and new builds. So now what I'm going to do is just take the 3 new build quotes that we already looked at, and then say if I wanted to build one of these and I was comparing to something I could buy on the resale market, or basically what was listed, and just see what's comparable. So when we look at 2 bedrooms as a starting point, we had the all-in price with everything of about just under $420, $250 per square foot for 1,676 square feet. And when we look down in the resales, there's not a lot of 2 bedrooms. There's this number 9, which is a 2-bedroom townhouse with the Hilton. Other than that, there's only the 2-bedroom that has a loft plus a 1-bedroom tiny house. So we'll talk about that fact. That one has 2 different units, so it's not really easily to compare. But for the 2-bedroom townhouse, the price is $404, a little bit bigger, $1,746. So that comes in at $231 a square foot. So those 2 are ones you can analyze together to say, okay, if I wanted to buy something that's available immediately, I could look at this townhouse, or I could look at building this, which would of course take quite a bit longer. And when you're building, there are a lot of things to do, and I've talked about that in other videos, and I will continue to do so to give tips on if you are building and things you need to look out for. So on the 3-bedroom side now, going into that, the 3-bedroom that we could build was just under $467 with everything included for estimates, so $282 per square foot. And when I go into the 3 bedrooms on the resale, I'm not going to analyze the concrete house. It's a really, really nice house with a rooftop swimming pool and has a pretty good cost per square footage considering it's concrete, but I'm going to look at something that's more close to my price point of the $466 here. And the lowest price item I could find is number 5 here, which is a 3-bedroom townhouse, but it's really, really large. It's at 2,366 square feet. So the price point, $520, is quite discounted to what it normally would cost to build this. And the price per square footage is quite affordable. It's actually comes in at the lowest out of everything we have here at just under $220 a square foot. So again, you can look at different options, and in this case, the townhouse, if you're okay with that, a good bonus is that you're in the Hilton. That means you have access to their beach club and their pool, whereas anything you're building up here, you don't have access to that. So you could also build with the Hilton a 3-bedroom house. Price for that would be at $535, so price per square footage there is $297 in comparison to the $282. So then we're going to look at 4 bedrooms. So the 4-bedroom house we could build for just over $572, so comes in just under $260 a square foot. And we can look at 4 bedrooms. There's not a lot available here. There's number 1, which is a really, really large 2,700 square foot model. So the more comparable in terms of price point would be number 4 at $600,000. So that one is just a bit bigger overall, 2,286 square feet compared to the house at 2,125. But the cool thing about this product is that it has 4 separate suites. So you could live in one and then have the other 3 in the rental pool. And so that makes it very convenient that way. So there's basically 2 lower keeping suites that each have 2 beds. And then the upper has a really nice screened in patio and a king bed. And so those properties, for 4 of them at $600,000, they're actually quite discounted from the normal price, because if you buy one of them individually, you're looking somewhere between $180,000 and $200,000 usually for just one of the keeping suites. So that one comes in at $262 a square foot. So depending on your objective, if I was an investor, I would be definitely looking at this 4-plex to run numbers to see how this would look from a rental ROI perspective in comparison to this 4-bedroom house, which is just a little bit more affordable. Here, I think I have a lot more flexibility, and obviously being in the Hilton, obviously we know property management's figured out and we don't have to worry about that, which is one of the biggest concerns when you're building, is how is property management going to be. And I've already mentioned a little bit about Airbnb and some challenges in other videos. And with the concrete house that is for sale right now, the property manager Vivian's actually been doing really well at getting guests into the property in comparison to some of the other units that have already been built right beside it that are concrete houses. So it is a factor when you're building. You really don't know what kind of management you're going to be able to get, whereas in the Hilton you can. So the last thing I just wanted to mention on this is that when you're looking at prices, a lot of people automatically go into a listing. They look at what the price per square footage is, because it's easy to look at the listing price, divide by the square footage and get that price. But if you're comparing to the building price, what a lot of people say is, hey, it costs $120 to build per square foot. And you go, well, geez, these are way more expensive. But in actuality, we weren't looking at apples to apples. And the price when you include everything into the build is a lot more comparable to many of the different resale options you may find at any given point in time. So just keep that in mind. And the other thing is that when you're buying a resale, you may be able to get financing. So this is a negotiable factor. If you're building, you can finance the lot, which is $150,000 with 20% down typically. However, if you're buying something that someone's selling, they might be able to offer you seller financing. For example, number 7, Jason Turley's listing, he has told me that seller definitely would offer financing at 25% down, so that could be a benefit on that particular property. So it just depends what your objective is. If you want a custom house, building may be obviously your only option if you don't find anything you like. And otherwise, you want to look at maybe both options and see what works best for you. So we've basically found that there could be both building and buying options at comparable price points, especially when you compare cost per square foot. So now we need to consider our objectives before we decide whether building or buying a pre-owned property would be best for us. So your analysis there would depend on whether you're buying for investment purposes or if you want personal use with occasional rental. So if I'm an investor, which I am, what I'm going to look at there would be what is the occupancy rate that I expect of a specific property and what kind of average daily rate can I get. I'm also going to analyze what kind of property management's available, get reviews of the different property management that's there. Do you have options if you don't like the current manager? I'm in the process of getting a property manager for my place, and it's definitely not easy to do. Also consider how long it takes to get cash flow. A resale could cash flow from day one as long as it's in the rental pool already. If you're building a property, you have to pay your down payment for the land, then you have to pay draw payments for the build, and you're not making any income on it till the property is complete. So that could take a long time depending where you're buying. And I'm going to not specifically talk about Mahogany Bay in this case because there's lots of other build potential that might even take longer than what it's taking currently in Mahogany Bay. Where I built my property, I bought the lot in September last year, and I've already taken possession last week, and just a few tweaks to do at this point. Also consider the impact of a brand if you're buying here. So the Hilton, for example, is got specific occupancy rates they would get and different rates that they have. You can look that up if you're just going into their website to see what they charge. But I'm not going to use their occupancy or their rates when I'm planning for my project because I'm in the private residences. What I instead do is use data from Airbnb. And if you're not sure how to do that, stay tuned as I'll have info on that in another video. Now, contrast that with someone mostly looking for personal use, but you want to rent it when not there. Now, if you never want to rent it, well, you can ignore all the stuff about property management and everything like that. But let's say you want to rent it sometimes, but you mostly want personal use. Then you want to obviously consider the location that you like and what amenities you want based on your lifestyle. If you have very specific requirements for a custom house, a build is likely the best way to go. I often build houses I want to live in Edmonton because I have very specific things I like, and so it's kind of what I want to do. For branded hotels, you might have a personal use restriction, so you might want to go into a brand thinking, well, at least it's going to be very easy to rent. And the Hilton, I mean, it does have the really nice beach club and the pool. And in the case of the Hilton, you don't have a personal use restriction, but other properties do. So for example, there's a new Alaya Marriott property that's really beautiful, and that one does have a six-week maximum if you buy one in there. So just consider that as you're looking at different properties. So some other things worth considering. How far are you away from the places you need to go, such as grocery stores? You may not care about that, but some people want to be close to town where you can walk everywhere, or maybe you're okay driving most of the time. Another thing to consider is the noise level in the area you're considering. Some areas have a ton of barking dogs, and some might have a lot of bar noise. I've lived in actually 3 different places now on Ambergris Caye. Right now I'm in my tiny homes in Mahogany Bay, and I can definitely say the noise here is the least that I've had anywhere that I've been, at nighttime at least. Not a lot of barking dogs, where generally that's one of the problems that you will have if you're in town. Also, consider what you are going to have next to you if there's not something already there. So you may have a great view, for example, but could anyone build in front of you because there's land available? If so, that could change what you're going to have. Same thing if you're building somewhere where all of a sudden someone could put a bar next to you because there's no restrictions on what goes into a neighborhood. One thing, again, I liked about Mahogany Bay is that you know where the commercial is going to be versus the residential, so that's an advantage. Whereas if you're looking at somewhere like Secret Beach, well, there, people can build whatever they want. So if you buy a lot with, where you want to put your dream house and someone puts a bar next to you, that might be a lot different than what you had planned for. So those are all things to consider if you're looking for personal use purposes. And again, if you are wanting to rent when not there, make sure you look at some of the same things up top here in terms of an investor, because you may want to at least cover your costs when you're not in your property. So one question I want to answer in conclusion is, would I build again or would I consider resale options? So overall, I am happy with the way my property turned out, but there were a couple of issues that came up that could not be fixed. For example, the cabinets were not built at the right size for a standard dishwasher, despite it always being in the plans, and that means I always need to special order a dishwasher. Since I was here throughout the process, I did find issues throughout and I got most of them resolved, but I wouldn't really want to build if I wasn't here. So getting furniture built, as an example, was a huge challenge. Timing it around when I'd get it built didn't really work well. Getting cushions, I had to go in and pick specific fabrics, and then the wood was built, and even getting different products is really hard on the island. So having someone here would be a lot easier. And if I look now at different options such as buying in the Hilton or buying in the Best Western, which have furniture packages available, that would be something that would make things a lot easier. Now, I haven't ran performas specifically for all the different options, and as an investor, that's really what you need to do to see what works. So I can't really answer the question of if I was about to buy now, what would I do? But I certainly would be doing a whole bunch of different analysis than I did when I first bought on the specific property I have. And if you were buying something to live here, I would make sure you stay in the area before deciding where to buy. Having lived here now, I realize that there's different places I might want to live, and there's a lot of things I didn't even find out from the internet in terms of where I might want to live. So the other thing I want to comment on is before you meet with a realtor, if you could come stay in the area, get educated, then pick a realtor once you have referrals, that might be a better way of discovering the right person to work with. There are some people that are buyers agents and they can be really good at helping you find product, but again, it is hard when there's no MLS system, and there are lots of different realtors that will be able to help you depending what you need, but I would recommend just getting here first and seeing what's available. I also want to encourage you to stay tuned to my channel by subscribing, because I will have other videos including how to do a performa as an investor and other tips for investing in Belize. So thank you very much.